This Sunday we celebrate a day in our church here called Pentecost. Maybe you knew that or maybe you didn't, but either way, what is Pentecost? Pentecost comes from two words, penta meaning 50, and so Pentecost is 50 days after Easter. And more specifically though, it celebrates a time when God's Spirit came upon his people in the form of those tongues of fire that maybe you heard about in your Sunday school class. And this turns out to be pretty significant, pretty important for you and me as well. See, when God's people were gathered, they were celebrating a different festival, a Jewish holiday called the Feast of Weeks, which corresponds with the giving of God's law, when God gave his expectations for his people. But even as they celebrated, they knew something that you and I know, that we feel in our hearts, that we talk about here as well, that we have a problem with that law, that we can't keep those expectations. We're on the wrong side of those expectations, and so that's exactly why we need this Holy Spirit that God gave to his people on that day. It's the same Spirit that he gives to you and me in our baptism. If you're a baptized follower of Jesus, you have that Spirit. You have that Holy Spirit that brings you into a relationship with Jesus, that assures you and gives you certainty in your times of doubt that you are with him, that you're part of his family. Also, that Holy Spirit that makes you able to keep those expectations to the extent that you and I are able to live up to God's expectations. It's that Holy Spirit working in us. So that's what we're celebrating this weekend as we celebrate Pentecost, that God gives us the means, the mechanism for doing what he wants for us, for having that relationship with him, that it doesn't depend on me, it doesn't depend on you, because if it does, well, we're sort of sunk. But that God makes it possible through his work. That's what we're celebrating, that Spirit that comes on. And you know what? Here's another cool thing. Every time that Spirit comes, just as it came to you, God's Spirit comes in power. Power not only to overcome sin, which is important, but to live a full life, a purposeful life, a life free of fear, a life free of guilt or shame. That's the life I want for you. That's the life I know each of us wants as well. So join us as we explore what it means to live in God's Spirit of power.